This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're up to day 3 of New York Knicks Training Camp. We're going to talk about Mitchell Robinson. We're going to get some news from Kemba Walker. Not some news, some words from Kemba Walker. Obviously, we're going to hear from Tom Thibodeau. And we're going to talk about this rule change, or maybe not even a rule change, but the enforcement of non-basketball plays and how it might affect Emmanuel Quickley and the way that he plays and adjusts his basketball game. So let's get the group here, ladies and gentlemen. We got Uncle Fulio in the building. We got Nate. We got Steph. And we're going to head and have a good time and talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to it. Ladies, Uncle Fulio, Nate, Steph, what's going on? How you feeling? Josh, what's up?
NBK panel, what's going on to the chat out there? Day 3 of practice of training camp. So, already things are kicking off and things are happening very, very rapidly. Before you know it, the season will be here. So let's just stay tuned and let's see what we got going on.
I mean, preseason will be here next week. Next Tuesday. Right. Yeah. Next Tuesday. Yeah. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, next Tuesday, tentatively, we're going to have Miles McBride's high school coach on to talk about McBride and, his character, his personality, why he will be successful in the NBA and all those type of things. So look forward to that, ladies and gentlemen. It is tentative, because he's coaching currently and he's a principal of a high school at the same time. So, it's always tentative. Things can move. It's fluid, but look forward to it very, very soon. Nate, what's popping?
What's up, man? Looking forward to that McBride interview. It's one of my favorite players. Man, I just want to, see what's going on day 3, see what we got going on.
Yeah. There's always something going on in the world of the New York Knicks. Steph?
Yeah. Salute to you, Sim, the chat, the panel. Looking forward to that interview Tuesday if it does happen. Looking forward to that first preseason game Tuesday, and just the Knicks season period. And I'm looking forward to this show. Got a lot to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, a whole lot to talk about. I guess we'll begin with Mitchell Robinson. He's probably the star of the day. We finally got a chance to hear from Mitchell Robinson, which, we haven't heard from him in a while. He hasn't addressed the media in a while. So we'll get a chance to hear from him today because he addressed the media today. All right, so let's go ahead and listen in to Mitchell Robinson and see what he has to say. This is Mitch, ladies and gentlemen.
This means protection. I'm being protected from you guys.
That's why I was 6 feet away. All right, guys.
First, how are you feeling? Put the deal on.
I'm feeling great, man. I mean, I just did a few things on the court today, and I feel good. My off season was solid. I mean, I did put in a lot of time to my body. So, I was up here most of the time. Actually, I was in New York. I left probably, I think, late July, but I was, working out with strength conditioning coach with our staff, just to, build up.
Yeah.
Are
you stronger?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm stronger, I mean, the weight room, man, I've been in the weight room like crazy. So, I mean, if I couldn't be on my foot that much during the summer, I had to, do something,
How do you feel like that's going to affect your game? How do you feel like that's going to affect your game?
I mean, I feel like it's going to increase my game. I ain't going to be able to get pushed around like that, like last year and the year before. And rookie year, obviously. So I'm thinking that it's gonna be great. So want to see how it goes.
How much work? I mean, give you credit for the work that you put in. You noticed it a little different. You look, stronger.
It was actually, training staff, Rich and guys that work here, and also my trainer back at the house. But they was all of my ears telling me, you got to do this, you need to do that. Like as far as like nutrition wise and what to put into your body. So actually, kind of like, at first I used to like, I'm not listening to that, but like now it's like, I'm just give it a chance. I did it and I seen a big change. So I'm like, I just fell in love with it. Now I can't stay out the weight room. It's crazy because like the first 2 years I was like, man, I don't want to lift. I just want to go shoot. But hey, man, I look great. And I think so.
Did you expect to be out this long? I know, we saw you actually during the playoffs, like running on the court pregame and doing stuff pregame. Right? I mean, did you expect this? Was there a setback, or what happened with the whole process?
No, I wasn't. I was taking it day by day, pretty much. Just saying, never really. That's a question you gotta ask coach, honestly. But I mean, I felt good, So and it is what it is, I guess. So.
Now, obviously, you're doing some stuff on the court. What can you do, and what's the next step as far as?
I mean, I've been, jogging on it, hopping on it a little bit, landing on 2 feet, until you, get it going. But yeah, I've just been taking it day by day, just working out, just got a little baseline going. So I've just been sticking to it, and every time they start an upgrade, we just go up.
Have you sprinted?
I'm doing like a light jog, so it's like, it ain't like super light, but it ain't super fast either. So it's like right in between.
Are you itching to get back to playing basketball again? Are you itching to get back?
Yeah, man. I miss it, man. Just it's better to be playing than sitting on the side. Obviously, I mean, it's boring sitting on the side. I mean, of course, you're learning a little bit more, but like, I want to be in that fight, man. Like, it don't get better than that, So I'm just ready to go.
Last year, you went through like a tough season the year before for you guys, but last year, you guys in the playoffs and stuff, and you can't be a part of it.
Man, it was tough. Watching my team out there in that fight, and I'm sitting off to the side, it's like I'm useless over here. That's what I felt like. I felt like I need to be out there with them, and I couldn't. So like, that urge was just like killing me at the end of the day. So I was just like, man, it's like, you know what I mean? So it was tough.
You're obviously eligible for a contract extension. Were there any talks about an extension, and how important, given that, how important is this season for you in your future?
I'm actually gonna wait on my agent to talk to me about that. I just been focusing on getting back, I'm really worried about all the contract and stuff like that. I just want to hoop. So with that being said, it's like whenever he tell me this is what they trying to do, then we just gonna talk about it at that time. But as far as like right now, I'm just trying to get back to playing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to stop it right there. All right, and I want to get your thoughts on what you heard from Mitchell Robinson. Right, I tell you, initially, I feel like he's more mature right now, just from the way that I'm hearing him speak, and talk about his training and his recovery, words that he's using tells me he's understanding that portion of being a basketball player, of being a professional basketball player.
Right.
He's getting more mature. And of course, that's a good thing for him, and that's a good thing for the New York Knicks. Right? You heard him say it. They used to tell me I need to get in the weight room, and it was just like, I just want to shoot. And you know what? There's a lot of kids the same exact way. Man, I don't want to get in the weight room. I don't need to do all of that. I just want to shoot. Just let me hoop. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to worry about my diet. Just let me hoop. He's not the only kid like that. He came into the league as a kid. Now, of course, you got some guys coming into the league who have been working with trainers since they were 13 years old, right? So they have that knowledge. They've been taught that from a young age. I don't think Mitchell Robinson had that same luxury as a lot of other players. So it was something that he clearly had to learn. And, that's really encouraging for me because I think it's going to make not just him being in good physical shape, but upstairs, his approach to the game, I think is going to make a big difference in the way that he plays. Yeah. Steph, what do you think?
The same thing, just the maturity. It was surprising to see they would, like you said, I'm used to players being with their coaches from age 13 in terms of nutrition and lifting weight. So it was a little surprising to hear him say that he didn't want to do it. He just wanted to hoop. But I just think that's just an indication of just how late he kind of came into the game, actually. And now he loves it. You can't keep him out of the weight room, and I think that's the best teacher experience.
Yeah.
Going through that experience, seeing how his body has changed with the nutrition, with the weightlifting. I think he'll be good from here on out. I'm just a little disappointed that he's not going to be available. I thought he would be a little further along by now, and be able to start the season. But the good thing is that Noel has played in that starting lineup most of last season, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Josh?
I absolutely agree with both of you. As the injury and the weight is concerning, maturity is not something I'm concerned with Mitchell Robinson at all at this given point in time. We all know Mitchell Robinson came into the NBA very, very raw. We all seen his athletic abilities, but there still was some on the court maturity that he needed to do. And last season, he showed it. Prior to him getting hurt, Mitchell Robinson was improving on the defensive side of the ball. His fundamentals got absolutely much better. And we've seen the difference that he can make once he puts everything together prior to him getting hurt last season. This upcoming season, I'm expecting more of the same, more of that growth and maturity on the floor. And now with his mental, like you said, Sam, with his mental now coming into play, I think the Knicks really are going to have something special in Mitchell Robinson this year. But his health is a concern. So we've got to continue to see and hope that once he comes back healthy, that he's able to put everything together the same way he did last season.
Yeah. He said he's able to do a light jog, right? Or somewhere, what did he say? Somewhere in between, in between the two of not jogging hard and jogging hard. So, I guess a light jog would sum that up. I don't know how, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how long it takes for a broken foot to heal. And I guess every person is going to have a different timeline in their recovery, right? I would have loved to see him a little further along at this point and, being able to participate a little bit more in training camp and in practice. Clearly, this indicates that he will not be playing next Tuesday when the Knicks open up preseason, right? So I'm a little disappointed, too, that we're not going to be able to see him on the floor for a little while. But I want him to come back fully healthy. I don't want him to have to come back and continuously deal with, now my foot is aching. It's a little bit sore. We have a setback in the recovery and those type of things. I do want him to be 100%. Having Nerlens Noel there, having Taj Gibson there, who has experience playing at that center position, you have the luxury of allowing him to heal 100%. Hopefully the contract stuff doesn't get in the way and his agent or whoever wanting to rush him back on the floor, and that's one reason why I would like to see them agree to an extension now so that his agent and Mitch doesn't feel rushed at all. Of course, Mitch is going to say, I'm not worried about the contract. I'm just worried about playing basketball and those type of things. But every player, they know it's a business and they know they want to get paid. Every player, somewhere in the back of their mind, is worried about it. To be honest with you, though, with Mitchell Robinson, he does seem like the kind of kid that I just want to get out there and hoop. I just want to get out there and play ball. I don't want to think about that stuff. But somewhere along the line, you got to think about it. And you got to know that if you're not playing on the floor, it's going to lessen the amount of money or has the potential to lessen the amount of money that you can make. So I'd like to see them get it done so it's not an issue or anything they need to worry about or can worry about or do worry about. Let me get my words right. Nate?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mitch has matured leaps and bounds from when he first was on the Knicks. I remember remember his press conference. He was a man of short words, couldn't even really put a sentence, like a long sentence together. He was very short with everything. So he's definitely more honest now. The one thing I will take away from when he talked about his contract question, he didn't say, I see myself in New York. He said, I'll let my agent handle it, which kind of worries me because whatever his agent tells him, he's going to follow. And I don't know if he has New York. I mean, I think he does have New York as the plan, but if his agent says, hey, we can get a better offer somewhere else, he's going to go with his agent. And that worries me a little bit because I would have loved to have heard, I love New York. I love the team I play with. I love playing for Tibbs. I didn't hear that. All I heard was, I'm going to let my agent handle it. And usually when players say, I'm going to let my agent handle it, they're going to get them the best deal, whether it's the New York Knicks or somebody else.
Well, I mean, I think that's the case no matter what. No matter
True,
what the player says.
But you want to hear him say that. You know, I mean,
as a fan.
I guess as a fan, maybe you want to hear him say that. But I think it's more of his agent and the team saying, just focus on basketball. If they ask you about the contract situation, don't say anything. Just focus on basketball. Because let's say he does say that, right? Now it opens up another can of worms. And people start asking more questions and starting to pry a little bit more. Okay, he says, I want to be in New York. This is where I want to be. Da-da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, have the Knicks given you an offer? And if not, why not? Now he has to go in and start answering all these other questions.
But I think quietly it's gonna ask a lot of questions. Like he didn't make a stance about wanting to stay in New York. He just I'll let my agent take care of it. So I mean, I just like to read between the lines. I mean, I could be wrong, and that's fine. I hope I am. But I just don't. I want to hear a player say, at least say something like, "I love New York. I love playing here. I love playing for Tibbs." I just felt like he gave an honest answer. I really do feel like he gave a complete honest answer. And I just think that that's where he stands. I'm going to let my agent take care of it. And whatever the agent decides, he's going to follow, period.
I mean, but he didn't say that. He said, I'll let my agent handle it. And when that time comes, my agent will bring it to me and we'll talk about it then. So I think that's a little bit different than saying I'm going to let my agent decide and then I'm going to follow it. Just remember, you're talking about a kid who just a few years ago was very, very shy in front of the camera.
Sure.
Now, of course, he's, you've seen him last year and even the year before. He's opened up, but still, he still may need some grooming on how to say things and what to say. So I'm pretty sure a lot of the things that he says when it comes to like a contract situation or anything like that, I don't want to say it's going to be scripted, but they're going to kind of give him some pointers.
But I think so. I think where he came from, I think he's going to lean on this agent for the advice and more of the, like that's why he's changed a lot of agents, because he wants to find the right agent that's going to give him either the most money or give him the best advice to get him the best decision. And I think that he is going to lean on his agent to really decide what he wants to do. And unless he really doesn't like it, he's not going to do it. But, I think he's going to look a lot of guidance for this agent, like, by saying I'm going to let my agent handle it. Because usually players say that. They usually do let their agent handle it. I mean, hey, that's the business side. I'm going to do the hoop. Yeah, you do the business side, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, yeah.
But I think they let the agent – I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Steph. I think you're going to say what I think
they let the agent handle the negotiation part of it.
Sure.
But I think once they bring the contract back to them, I'm sure he has a circle of people to talk to about making that final decision. And the fact that he's changed a lot of agents, to me, lets me know that he's more involved. Because if you're not involved and you're just going to follow the agent, why not stick with the first one? So I think he has some sense of an agent that's working for him and not working for him. And I'm not sure. I think he has other people in his corner. I mean, I don't think it's just him and the agent. So that's interesting. I didn't really hear much of that. It's not uncommon for a player to say, the agent will handle that. I'll focus on the court. And then when it's time, we'll take a look at it.
Well, that's why you pay the agent. You pay the agent for the negotiations to get you the best deal. and the player's gonna at the end of the day gonna say yay or nay if they want to do it. But the agents, I think he's going to lean on this agent for guidance and more experience. That's why he's gone through a lot of them, because maybe he didn't feel like he had that, and he wants to get the best deal possible for himself, but also too, he wants to make sure he's making the right decision when the contract and all that stuff. So that's why he's leaning on this agent more so maybe than other people in the circle, because quite frankly, if I'm a player, I'm not leaning on other people that aren't agents, that don't know the jargon, don't know the contracts, don't know all the stipulations behind it. They're just going to give you the emotional feel. They're not going to give you the actual facts of what the contract entails. Agents will know that stuff. So I would expect that he's going to.
I get that part, but a family member would be able to say, listen, the Knicks are offering 10 years, $40 million. My agent thinks, because remember, hopefully the agent should not be talking to other teams. Isn't that considered tampering, getting a deal from other teams at this point if he's not a free agent?
I don't know if it's considered.
Reach out to him, right?
I don't know as far as the agent reaching out to just kind of say, hey, what would if he was a free agent, what do you think he would be worth, or what would you what kind of offer would you put on the table?
Right.
I don't know.
But I think a family member could do that though. The Knicks are offering 4 years, $65 million right now. My agent thinks I can get 5 years, $100 million. He's made some calls. He think I should get that. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think you need to know the particulars to be able to say, listen, with what's going on in your life right now, you like New York, this, that, and the other. You might want to take this deal. Or listen, maybe you do want to, bet on yourself. That this seems like a low ball offer. So I do think family members can do that type of assessment.
Hold up, Nate.
But one thing too with Mitch, they're gonna be a lot more incentives in his deal because of the injuries. So that's gonna be something that you're really gonna have to the agent's gonna have to explain. Here's the incentives for this and that, which could definitely confuse somebody who maybe doesn't know how it all works. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Nate. So I definitely think the concerns that you have as far as him not saying, I like New York and I want to commit to New York. I think that they are valid, a little bit valid. But what I do want to say, not as the counter, but to supplement what you said, sometimes it's not all about the money, right? Sometimes it's about the situation. Sometimes it's the fit, the team that you're on. Julius Randle took, perhaps $10, $15 million less per year that he could have got anywhere else because he liked the situation that he was in. So, there's so many variables that come into it. Right at this point, there's not a lot that we know. But I do think your concern is valid about, what he did not say. But, I don't think it's fair to assume anything right now. The season still has to play itself out. Because then, he has to come back from injury and play. And then we'll see what happens. I think this question will get brought up again towards the end of the season for sure.
Until he signs a deal, this is going to be brought up every time in a press conference.
Yeah, well,
especially if Mitch Eaton expresses his interest.
Well, I actually like the answer because I just think it keeps everything out of the news. Instead of negotiating this deal in the news, I think it keeps everything out of the news. You know what I mean? And just lets his agent, the New York Knicks, his team deal with it instead of saying, yeah, I want to be with the Knicks and I want to do this and I want to do that. Hey, I'm here. I'm focused. It's the team I'm with. I want to be out there with my guys. I'm here to play basketball. We'll deal with that time. We'll deal with that when the time comes. Yeah, I just personally like that answer, because so that way the focus can be on basketball. I'm hoping that Mitch gets back, within the next couple of months so he can get out there. Hopefully, within the next couple of weeks. I want to see him get out there.
It's gonna be a long time.
Be able to play, and do what he can do on the floor and prove his worth. You know what I'm saying? And I'm hoping that by that time, maybe him and the Knicks already have a deal in place.
Hey, Sim, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all his timeline of the surgery? Because I feel like he should already be ready for training camp. He was out literally. When did he get the injury?
Early March.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I can't say what the timeline is, and you can't say what Mitch's bones are. You know what I mean? Somebody else can have one timeline, and another player can have a different timeline based on their health, their height, how much weight.
I think that matters. You're right. I think the height and the weight mattered because he did put on more muscle, and he is a taller dude. Because I'm kind of thinking in football terms, I know some players that broke their foot and they were already practicing 4 weeks later. So I mean, but Mitch is 7 foot and he's 275. So maybe I don't know. I mean, I just figured he would be more far along than he is now. I mean, he's just barely running. That concerns me, man. Like he's not really doing anything just other than just kind of sitting in a chair and shooting and doing some light running.
We'll see. I mean, the thing is, you got to start with the light running, and then you work your way up to, if you're doing light running, you have no pain, no swelling or whatever. Okay, now let's step it up some. You heard what he said. We have a baseline, and this is what I'm saying too about the maturity. He said we have a baseline, and we're gonna work our way up from the baseline. That's someone who's speaking, has a little bit more experience now. Let's switch over and let's talk about, because this has been brought up a lot, right? With the additions of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier and the loss of Reggie Bullock and Elfrid Payton. The defense, right? Is our defense better? Is our defense worse? Is it the same? Right? That's been brought up a lot. And there was something I read out there that said, Tom Thibodeau was kind of disappointed that the Knicks didn't keep Reggie Bullock. I guess, that's probably a story for another time. I don't know how true it is or isn't. But he was asked that question today, about the defense and how do you maintain the defense with those two players gone. And this is Tom Thibodeau answering that question.
I think it's important for us, like last year is last year, this year is a new and different year. And it's important for us to start at a zero base, to know that we have to put the work into this. It's very difficult to guard in this league individually. It's collectively, what can you do as a team? And so everyone has to understand what their job is, go out there and execute their part of it. If one guy's not doing their job, it'll break down. And so it doesn't matter whether it's defensive transition, pick and roll defense, catch and shoot defense, low post defense, whatever defense you're in, it's got to be five guys tied together. Each night you'll be challenged in a different way. Some nights it may be the big, a lot of nights it's point guards, a lot of nights it's wings. And so we always say, help your teammate like you would want to be helped for. So everyone has to be in the right position. Everyone has to read the ball correctly. Everyone has to make multiple effort.
In the offseason, did you players up and hear the fans talk about how excited they were about this upcoming season and what could happen last year, or did you just focus on?
Well, I think part of the benefit of having been here before, I understand what the Knicks mean to the city, how important basketball is, the arena. I know whether I was here as an assistant or I came in as an opposing coach, it's just a great place to play. And the fans are special here, the arena is special. And so I think, if you give New York fans, the right type of effort, they're going to recognize it and appreciate it. And so we want to play hard every night, and we want to play together, and we want to play smart because we know there's an appreciation for it. And so, go ahead.
All right, we'll stop it right there. Team defense. That's what he's stressing right now, team defense. And a lot of it, with what he said, is to kind of take that heat off of Evan Fournier, off of Kemba Walker, instead of saying, those guys just got to come in here and get after it. And that's what I'm expecting from them. Instead of saying that, he says, we've got to play team defense. It doesn't matter who's here or who's not here. We've got to come out, play a team style of defense, and get the job done that way. I like that response. I said it before. I like that Tom Thibodeau always protects his players. He's not going to say anything that's going to disparage his players in the media. What he says to them in the locker room, in the gym, it's one thing, but he's not going to say anything in front of the media that's going to embarrass his players. Team defense. Can we have a top 5 defense playing this team style of defense this season? Steph, I'll begin with you.
That's tough, Sam. I thought you was going to say top 10. I was going to say easy. Top five is a stretch. I mean, obviously, because it's a ranking, it depends on, the other teams ahead of you. So I would have to kind of go over their rosters really quick. But if we talk about in the entire NBA, I don't know about top 5. we were top 3, top 4. So you're talking about only going down a spot or 2. Um, no, I think Alfred, with his size, as much as he didn't help us offensively, helped at the point of attack. I think Bullock helped. And, Kemba, not from lack of effort. And yes, he does do well in taking charges, just physically with his size. You see the picture with him and Rose? Like,
Mhm.
wow. Yeah. Rose, though his defense has definitely improved since the first time he was here. 28. I mean, he's solid as well. I don't think top 5, but I think top 10.
Okay. Top 10. Josh, what do you think?
So I know everyone in the chat is like, "Oh, here Josh is about to kill him. He's about to kill him. He doesn't think they're gonna do it." But
I'll do it for you, Josh. Don't worry about it.
I'm actually gonna take the over on this. I think the Knicks absolutely can become a top 5 defense. When you think about Tom Thibodeau and every place he's been, he's had some really solid defensive teams, really good defensive teams, right? And last year, I personally didn't think the Knicks had a chance of being that good of a defensive team because of the personnel they had. And Reggie Bullock basically, played some of the best defense of his career, guarding the opposing team's best player. So Thibodeau is able to work with what he has and always produces top-notch defensive teams. So I think it was important for him to take the pressure off of those players. But I think during the season, it's really going to come down to Tibbs and what he implements and the team defensive style that the Knicks are going to play. So I definitely think the Knicks have a chance of being a top 5 defense. I know the loss of Reggie Bullock was huge from the defensive end. But I think there's going to be someone else to step into that spot. We're all hoping that it's going to be R.J. Barrett. And I think that no matter what, the Knicks are still going to be formidable on defense. And I think it could be top 5 for sure.
Okay. Nate, it sounds like you disagree with that.
No, I don't think we're going to be a top 5 defense. I'll tell you why. Because the emphasis this year is going to be put on the offense. Last year we did not score a lot of points. And in the offseason, we didn't get defenders. We got players that can put the ball in the bucket. And I think that the emphasis is going to be on scoring points this year, because we got more guys that can put the ball in the bucket. I think defensively, we're at 10 to 15 range. But I think offensively, we're probably going to be around the mid-tiers of the offense too. I think we'll easily put up 100 points a game. So, I mean, you talked about it.
100 points?
100 points?
I mean, sorry, about 100. I forgot. Yeah, we haven't had to. We only averaged 92 last year, right?
We averaged like 104 points last year. If we don't put up, if we're only going to put up 100 points this year, we're in trouble.
Okay, about 115 points. Okay, whatever the average is, 115 points, 120, whatever. But I
112 is the league average, Nate. 112.
112. Okay, so let's say 115. So 115. We'll average about 115 points a game. But let me say this: like you said, Sim, if you're taking away defensive pieces, but you're adding offensive pieces, you're not necessarily expected to be a top defense because you could be the top defense and have a horrible offense. The Knicks are going to try to be a little more balanced. They're going to try to have at least a top 10, top 15 defense, but they're going to expect to have enough in their offense. And I just think it's hard to have a top 10, top 5 defense and a top offense.
Yeah,
it's almost nearly impossible.
All right, and we're going to let Nate get his audio together a little bit because it's kind of staticky and breaking up. So I don't know if he has to, refresh his modem or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or get the Wi-Fi popping. I don't know, but we got a lot of static in there.
Let me get a piece of him, Sam. Let me get him.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, having a good offense and a good defense, they aren't mutually exclusive of one another, right? Just because you have really good defense doesn't necessarily mean that your offense is going to suffer. It's not a scale, right? So I think the Knicks can have a top defense and can still put some points up on the board. My personal prediction for the Knicks is for them to definitely score more points. They won't be at the bottom of the NBA in points. I don't think that's going to happen because of the pieces that they added. I think they're going to take more shots, get some shots earlier in the shot clock. And get some more shots up that increase their points per game, right? And that's how you judge, per NBA rankings, or the offensive rankings, the amount of points per game that you score. So I'm personally predicting around 112, and I think the Knicks can put up 112 points and still be a top defense in the NBA, only giving up like 104 or so. right? And if you have that combination together, I think that can put the Knicks in a good position to win, 45, 46 games or something like that. So they're not mutually exclusive. You can have both, or you can have a really good defense and a very, middle of the pack type of offense. So I totally disagree with Nate.
Yeah, I don't think it's mutually exclusive, but I think it's really hard to have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. Because
Right.
what that means is that you have a lot of two-way players on your team, players that can put the ball in the bucket and defend their position at a high level. And that's hard to find across the roster. But a top 10, I didn't have an opportunity, but I'm going to look up the teams last year. I'm pretty sure they were like maybe top 8 on defense, the top teams in each conference. But like
On
the
defense?
Clippers, for example, I'm wondering, where they stood offense and defense. I'm pretty sure they were like middle of the pack of both.
Clippers were 114 points per game when we played them. They were about at 114, and I think their defense was up there. Their defense was up near tops in the NBA.
Right, but top like what though? Like top 10.
Top 10. I think it's like around top 10.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But like top 5 on offense and defense, that's pretty hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's hard.
Yeah, to me, I just don't think that Nate brought in a correlation. He said that he doesn't think they're going to be as good defensively because of the pieces they brought in offensively. And I'm saying that doesn't matter. You can't connect the two. You can't automatically say just because a team is going to be better on offense that their defense is going to suffer. Well, you know what I'm saying? That's
right.
what I think.
I agree with that, but I think he was talking about the particular players we brought in.
Right.
And that allowed him to make that assessment. You're right. I don't think it's automatically that.
Yeah, and I don't think we can go by points per game either to determine whether or not our defense is better or worse. Because if we're shooting the ball faster, that means we have more possessions per game. So if we have more possessions per game, the opposing team is probably going to have more possessions per game, right? So we could give up more points. We could be giving up 110 points per game. We're scoring 115 points per game. It doesn't necessarily mean that our defense is worse. I think we've got to go by percentages, right? In other analytics that determine how good your defense is. If I don't know what we held teams last year, but let's say we're holding teams to shooting 38% from the field, right? And then from 3, we're holding teams to 31% from 3 or something like that. Then our defense might be pretty good. They may be scoring more points because they're getting up more shots because we have more possessions per game, but it still does, it doesn't necessarily mean that our defense is any worse.
Well, Stem, you mentioned top 5 defense, though. That's how the NBA judges the top defenses in the league. The Knicks were a top defense in the NBA last season because they held teams to, 100 points per game or something like that.
But
that's their ranking.
Right. But I still think there are a few other things that go in there. I know they do kind of base it on points per game or defensive rating. They have the defensive rating, and a lot of times that defensive rating goes into your points per game. The averages that you allow all go into the defensive rating, I believe.
Right. That's what I was talking about, defensive rating. I think we were top 4 or something like that. In defense, number 4 in defensive rating.
Yeah. Mike D'Antoni, had an interesting philosophy on defense, because his teams play so fast. Everyone says that he didn't play defense, but I think he had an interesting philosophy, right? His teams played fast, and one of his ideas was that if you play so fast, most teams can't keep up. They don't have the endurance, and so they can't shoot as well. They can't shoot as good as you. They can't keep up. So you're actually playing defense by playing offense, right? Because you play so fast. We're shooting in 8 seconds or less. Now another team comes down and they try to do the same thing, but they can't because they don't have the same efficiency or the same players or the same skill. You know what I mean? And so it does tie into your defense. We'll see how it works out, man. I'm hoping that the Knicks can at least keep a top 10 defense, then have a top 10 offense. And if you do that, I think you're looking pretty good. You still got to be able to close down the stretch and do those little things. You can have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense, but not be winning games because you can't close down the stretch and, or you average a high number of turnovers or something like that. So all of those things got to work too. But we'll see what they can do. We'll see if they can continue to have that type of defense. I do want to take a look at the Knicks principles, right? Because the Knicks have their principles plastered on the walls of the Westchester training facility, and I did a video on it. And I'm not going to break it down here like I did in the video, but we'll take a look at it really, really quick. All right, and then you can go check out the video. It's about an 8-minute video where I kind of broke it down and talked about each one of these principles. All right, I'm just going to read them out. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see them unless you're looking at it on YouTube. The defensive musts. So they don't even call them principles. They say these are the musts. This is what we must do. Number 1 is transition defense. All right, that's first and foremost for Tom Thibodeau and the coaching staff. We've got to play transition defense. You got to compete, right? Compete hard. Any game that you play in, as long as you compete, I think you give yourself a chance. Challenge shots. Number 4 is defend. Physical, without fouling, have early high hands. Number 5, hustle plays, be the first to the floor, taking charges, taking blocks, or getting blocks. Number 6, stance and vision. I think you heard Tom Thibodeau talk about some of that in his interview today. Number 7, think help without the ball. And then number 8 is gang rebounding. Right? These are his defensive principles and, what he's preaching to the team. And I always like it when you have these things plastered on your walls so that it's a constant reminder to the players. Or sometimes you see teams have it on shirts and stuff like that. And then you got the offensive musts. You have pace and sprint, which I agree with 100%. Last year we seen the Knicks walk the ball up the floor too many times. Elfrid Payton did. Playing with space, making sure the floor is spaced out. Playing with the pass. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Some people may not understand that. And I broke it down in the video. So go check out the video. But playing with the pass, that's an important one. Attacking the rim or having rim reads. Move without the basketball. Offensive execution. Shooting threes. And then offensive rebound. So right there, ladies and gentlemen, the defensive and offensive principles of the New York Knicks for this season. And we'll see if the Knicks will be able to execute these things on the floor. All right, it's not always easy, but any thoughts on those things right there, Steph?
Oh, I'm really excited to see pace. I really would like the Knicks to get up the court faster, see if we can get some transition buckets. If not, then we can always set up. But I would like that. We got better shooters, so we might even be able to get something out the secondary break as well. Before we have to set up. And also moving off the ball. If you're not involved in the play, Isaiah would point this out all the time. Those who weren't involved in the play would just be standing around.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's constant movement, there's constant opportunity for somebody to slip through, maybe get an open shot. So I'm really liking it. And like I've been saying for a few weeks or months now, I'm really interested to see how the Knicks offense looks. That's what I'm looking for in the preseason. I'm really hoping it's more dynamic and faster.
Yeah. Josh, any thoughts?
So as we all know, the Knicks last season were last in the NBA in transition scoring. They were last in the NBA. I definitely would like to see that pace improve. I want to see them try to get more attempts at the rim. I think, once again, more shots, more possessions equal more points. And I think that was one of the biggest problems with the offense last year, if you look at it from that standpoint. And yeah, I mean, listen, I like those offensive and defensive principles as much as anyone. Let's see how the Knicks are going to execute them. And I want to know, out of those offensive and defensive principles, which one of those are we actually going to prioritize out of that group? I know we're going to try to prioritize all of them, but I feel like, Thibodeau is going to prioritize some within that list that he put up there. And I want to know what those are while watching them play. I want to see what those principles are going to be and how we can be able to do the rest of everything else.
But I think they work together.
Which ones you think that some of them are like mutually exclusive, like you said?
Right.
Well, we kind of hinted at this a couple of day one of training camp or yesterday or whatever the case may be. I know we was talking about taking the center out of the paint and putting them on the 3-point line, and trying to get up some more 3-pointers that way, and then he has crashed the boards, right? But then at the same time,
Gang
you want to
rebound.
prioritize.
No. He has gang rebound. See that, and that's what we were talking about the other day. Gang rebounding. So you're not relying on just your center. Our center averages 6 rebounds a game.
What I'm trying to say is, if you're spreading everybody out the 3-point line and you're trying to prioritize 3-pointers, right? How can you gang rebound? Someone has to crash the boards to try to get that offensive rebound. And if that's the case, how can you be able to prioritize transition defense as well? I guess I'm just visualizing Trae Young picking us apart in a transition offensive situation while we're sitting down court trying to shoot 3-pointers.
So
I understand that there's a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
There has to be. Go ahead, son.
So one, if you're talking about transition defense, if you have your players on the perimeter, it's easier to get back in transition defense because you're not so far under the basket. That's one thing, right?
Yes.
But if you're talking about so I don't think shooting threes has to necessarily relate to bad transition defense. You just got to be ready to get back because there are going to be long rebounds, right? But as far as offensive rebounding, when you shoot the ball, you're not going to get the rebound when it hits the rim. You're leaving on the flight of the ball. You heard Tom Thibodeau talk about that yesterday or the day before, training players to leave and make their defensive rotation on the flight of the basketball, right? So you might have 3 guys on the perimeter. It doesn't mean that you still can't get 4 guys touching the paint. You can. You can get 4 guys touching the paint. And if you strategically know where you're placing your players, you're going to have someone who's guarding that foul line area for long rebounds, someone who's got floor balance so that they can get back on defense and stop the initial fast break. And then you're going to have some guys who's building a wall down there in the paint, right? So you have some rebounding assignments and where people need to go from certain positions.
Right. And that includes if a big is shooting a 3. Right. So there's certain things that a guard knows. If Noel is shooting a 3, I'm not going in for an offensive rebound because where he's shooting the ball, he may be a bit out of position. I can't go in. Guards know that. And gang rebounding doesn't mean run to the glass and try to get an offensive rebound. It just means you might need to stay in there for a long rebound. Don't leave too soon. Make sure that ball is secured. Then you can go. That's still enough time to get back.
Yeah. I think it's a lot about positioning and understanding, where you need to be or what your assignment is when something is happening on the floor.
Right. And they teach guards that.
Yeah, exactly.
Teach guards that. When to go in, when to fall back. If a big is doing this is what you need to do.
Listen, I agree with you guys. I think schematically it could work. But I just think against teams that do a lot of fast breaks, we've seen it last season against Atlanta. When that ball was in the air and the Knicks couldn't get that rebound, our transition defense was absolutely horrendous. They picked us apart and our transition defense apart. So I understand that we want to prioritize it.
When we couldn't get the rebound, you're saying?
When we couldn't get the offensive rebound, they tore us apart. They tore our transition defense apart. So I understand that we want to prioritize that. I'm kind of curious to see how all this is going to come into play. And like I said, there's some things that are going to be prioritized based on who we play. So it's a lot of things that go into it. So we'll see. I'm not counting it out. I'm just saying we'll see.
I'm just saying I don't see within those principles where they're mutually exclusive. I think one works with the other.
Is one of them crash the boards? My memory is short.
So I guess
the board.
It was gang rebounding. And my
Gang
thing is,
rebounding.
Gang rebound is not the same, Josh, as
It's
crashing
different.
the boards. Gang rebounding is don't leak out too early to get back. There may be a long rebound. We need you to secure it. If your guard leaves early to get back in transition defense and then there's a long rebound, they get it.
Understood. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just want to see it. That's it.
All right. Speaking of defense, Tom Thibodeau was asked about Mitchell Robinson and blocking shots, right? And that, his numbers, his shot blocking numbers have dipped. Last year I think they were at 1.5 blocks per game. And he was asked whether or not that's due to his ability or, whatever he's doing defensively, or is it due to team schematics? And this is his response.
Well, it's and it's a great question because oftentimes, there's when we talk about defensive ratings and different measurements, sometimes you may see a guy who's high in steals and he gets rated highly because of that, and oftentimes he's a guy that breaks you down. And the same thing if you just go after blocks all the time and you're not fulfilling your team responsibilities, your blocks may be high, but you may not be effective in terms of your team defense or your pick and roll defense or whatever it might be. So I think the big thing for us was getting his fouls down, and I think he's done a great job with that. And there's still the rim intimidation. Like, guys are looking to see where he is. And so I think his discipline has improved greatly. So he's not recklessly just flying all over the place. He's got a lot more discipline to his game. He's impacting shots in the paint and the restricted in a very efficient way.
It seems like he, like what you've been posting about how much muscle he put on. That comes with weight too, right?
Yeah. No.
Is that good and bad? I mean, how do you view that?
But the thing that I like about what he did is he maximized the time, in a way that, so what were the things that he could do, and he did them. And in terms of strength and conditioning, whatever it might have been, whether it was the pool, the bike, but physically, I think he's matured also. He's not a young kid anymore, and he looks great. And so, with any big, you have to have that awareness of the weight. And I also think that once he gets to playing, some of that's going to come off. But he's definitely a lot stronger than he was. He's put a lot of work in terms of watching film, and he's doing all the things that he can do. And I think he's very engaged with his teammates. When he's on the sideline, he's into what's going on. He gets there early. He's with the early group. He'll stay late. He'll come in at night. So he's in the building all the time. It's a big plus.
All right, we'll stop it right there. And, he went into a little bit about, what he's been doing to get himself ready and the weight, the muscle gain. I don't want to say weight gain, but muscle gain and those type of things. But I agree with him about the blocks and steals, right? People always look at those numbers to determine whether or not a guy is a good defender. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're a good defender. You can get off ball blocks. You can be really good at playing the passing lanes. It doesn't mean that you're a good one-on-one defender. Doesn't mean that you understand how to read the offense and understand where you need to rotate and those type of things. Which I'm going to say I think Mitch is good at understanding how to defend the screen and roll. As a matter of fact, I love the way he defends the screen and roll. I broke down a video one time where you see Mitch drop back from that screen and roll, and he has this vision where he can see everything that's happening, so he can make a decision where to go and what to do. I think he's very good in pick and roll defense. So I definitely agree with Tom Thibodeau there. And I do want to say this to you, Uncle Fulio, Mr. Controversy. In transition defense, the Knicks gave up 16.8 points per game. Third best in the NBA. I'll just leave it right there. Last season. I'll just leave it right there.
I mentioned specifically the Hawks series where they tore us apart, tore our transition defense apart.
But you said, the Knicks transition defense got tore apart. The Hawks series, that's one thing. But during the season, the Knicks were pretty good in transition defense.
I know that. Yeah,
A lot of things
I
happened
know
during
that.
the Hawks season. A lot of things happened during that Hawks series, and some of that has to
Okay.
do with being in the playoffs and teams being able to, scheme against you and not just doing
Right.
it, one game at a time. And it also has to do with, other things that happen in the game, the rebounding battles and things like that. But throughout the season, the Knicks gave up 16.8 points per game in transition.
They also didn't prioritize having everyone at the 3-point line as well, and they also didn't prioritize. I guess now it's different apparently. Gang rebounding and crashing the boards. You know what I'm saying? They also didn't put that out there as a priority either.
Well, we don't know what the priorities were last season. We didn't get to see that. We didn't get to see that last season, so we don't know.
We know that
this could be from last season.
Last in the NBA in 3-point shooting, though. We know that
in percentage, not in percentage.
Attempts per.
I'm sorry. They were high in percentage, but they were low in attempts.
Correct.
Understandable because you had two guys on the floor at all times that could not shoot them.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that's going to lower your attempts.
We got killed in transition. I just remember them picking rolling us to death. But that'd be interesting to know how much points we gave up in transition against the Hawks.
Trae Young was lethal in the transition game against us. Absolutely lethal. Our transition defense was horrible in that series. Absolutely horrible.
Well, we'll see. I'm gonna look it up and see what the numbers were. I'm not gonna disagree with you. It could have been. I don't know what the numbers are in that series, but I don't think it had to do with the Knicks shooting 3-point shots. Okay. I just don't. I don't think it had to do with the Knicks shooting 3-point shots. I think that you can shoot threes and still be able to get back on defense.
Right. And those may have been the same defensive principles from last year.
Right.
It may not even be any change.
Right. It may not. So
just wasn't able to do it.
Yeah. We'll see. Kemba Walker also spoke to the media today, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people waiting to hear what Kemba Walker has to say. Right. So we'll take a listen to Kemba Walker and get your thoughts on Kemba Walker and what he has to say so far. And obviously we know it's probably going to be all politically correct stuff, but he might have something to say. It's Kemba Walker.
My impressions. It's been fun. Guys work hard, and these guys are really together. It's been great energy, great positive energy. For the most part, the things that I've noticed is how much guys pick each other up in practice. I think that's important, especially because we have some new guys. Obviously me, Evan, or two new guys. So them guys like constantly trying to help us as much as they can. So it's a lot of help from those guys.
Do you step in as a leader, or is it already in place? How does that work?
I'm literally just being myself.
Okay.
I'm literally just be myself. I think that I'm just naturally just positive and optimistic. Whenever I see the energy kind of getting low in practice, I'm definitely going to speak up. Even though I'm new, I'm just a little older now, obviously. So, I just kind of have that reputation. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I am the leader, but I think I just have leadership qualities.
You were talking yesterday about those three guys, you, Taj, and him, are all New York kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something about that, about being home and having three of you on a team?
It is. It is. It's pretty special. I've known Taj for a very long time. He's been trying to get me to come here for forever. So yeah, it's definitely very, very comforting, knowing those guys. And me watching Obi from afar, knowing he's from New York, and then coming here, it's like we kind of already had like that connection, so we kind of, just got along like really easy. So it's definitely comforting having those guys here and being from New York. Yeah.
Seeing every day that you and Derek and great things, just being, I guess, leaders, but also just explaining stuff to him, trying to get him comfortable. It makes me feel good. But you as a veteran, like, how do you approach that with younger players?
Just whatever questions they have, you know. I try to answer to them to the best of my ability. And you know, those guys, they want to learn. You know, they're very smart guys. Whenever I see them doing something wrong or, you know, something that they can improve on, I try to help them as much as I can. I remember my rookie year, so I know the transition from college into the NBA is different. You know, it's just different, and you know, those young guys are super talented. You know, Q, you know, he's one of the first guys who I spoke to, you know, when I got here, obviously because of the number thing. So, you know, we kind of, you know, got pretty close off that as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna be here for him for sure, whatever he needs.
Kemba, I know you only played in one of the 3 games you guys had against the Knicks last year.
Yeah, my first one.
But
Yeah.
from an outside perspective, what did you feel like made your defense as successful as it was?
Just really just hustle, you know, intensity, and you know, just doing the extra, you know, just, you know what I mean, like never giving up and helping each other. You know, that's really important on the defensive end, especially in this league. You know, me being from here, you know, it's like I'm really like from here, born and raised in the Bronx, like, you know, so it's definitely just a little bit more special, you know.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Kemba Walker. He said Todd Gibson been recruiting him to come to New York for years. I don't think he said any, you know, he said just about what we would expect him to say. I do have questions about not about his leadership abilities, but how do you think a team responds when somebody new comes in and has those natural leadership abilities and starts to step up and say this or say that? How do you think, Steph, players respond to that?
I think on this particular team, how close they are, I don't really anticipate it being a problem for him or Fournier. Like I can't see, you know, Randall or someone saying, you know, I'm not going to listen to you or throwing them shade because they're new to the team. I think everybody has bought into the culture and what we're trying to do. And I think I just see everyone being receptive to each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. Josh, any thoughts on that?
100% agree. I mean, we heard it in that press conference where Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker were talking. And basically, it was just like a mutual respect, and everyone is literally buying into what Tibbs is trying to do. And you know, some of those principles that we talked about, everyone's buying in. And Manuel Quickley's talking about defense. You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing he brings up is defense. And also the stuff that he needs to do to get better. So I do think everyone's buying in. I think the leadership on this team is going to be absolutely amazing, and then we'll see where it takes us.
Is it possible to have too many leaders on a team? And I'm not trying to bring up anything bad about the Knicks or anything like that. This is just more about, you know, just talking about, you know, you have a bunch of guys who are all leaders and have leadership qualities. But naturally, when you have a group of people, 1 or 2 people step up as, you know, the bona fide leaders of the group. And sometimes you get, you know, you have more than one person who wants to, or more than 2 people who wants to have that leadership role. And sometimes, you know, that's when you get the butting of heads, right? Because somebody believes, well, I should be the leader of this team, or, you know, I'm the eldest. I've been in the league the longest. I should be the leader. Or I'm the leading scorer on the team. I should be the leader of this team. I mean, most of the time, I think it works out, and I think this team has the type of players, you know, where you know, guys are just gonna, I think, be able to listen to one another and accept constructive criticism from one another. It just seems like this kind of team, because I don't think we have a lot of selfish players on the team. But how do you think it's going to work out? Do you think it's going to be one or 2 guys that step up? Or is it going to be leadership by committee? Steph,
I think it's gonna, yeah, and then I gotta go. I have to be somewhere at 6, remotely anyway. I think it's gonna be I think it's going to be one or two people that may be the most vocal in front of the team. And then I could see the other ones being more vocal individually to a person, right? So I could see maybe Randall and D Rose addressing the team, and I could see Kemba leading by pulling someone aside, and saying something to him. So I don't know how many people are gonna like just get up in front of the team, if it's gonna be more than two, but I definitely think they'll be leading in other ways.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, I'm just glad that we got a lot of leaders on the team. It's always good. I think, it can't hurt. Will there ever, are there ever teams where people are battling for that leadership role? Of course there are. But on this team, Tom Thibodeau was the bona fide leader. So,
yeah,
and I think that probably answers a lot of questions right there. He's the bona fide leader, and he's going to put his trust in certain people. And I think everyone's then going to look and say, okay, this is who Tom Thibodeau trusts. This is who we're following. I think it's kind of like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, but Steph, I know you got to head out. We'll let you get you. Yeah, it's 6:00 now. I don't want you to be late. I don't want you to be late. I appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. See you later. We'll get Nate back in the building. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, everything is good with Nate. Nate, I didn't want to, I'm not a disruptor. Certain aspects. So we had something going on. I didn't want to disrupt things and bring it in there. The last thing I want to talk about before we leave is this NBA. I don't know if it's a rule change or if they're just going to begin enforcing this rule of non-basketball contact. All right, but the NBA broke down today what this rule is about and explained it a little bit. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen. You guys should be able to see it. And I want to talk about how this is going to impact Emmanuel Quickley. And we'll listen to Emmanuel Quickley because he also, talked about it in his media day interview. But this is the rule, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to check this out here.
Final non-basketball move to review is contact between an offensive player and his defender, where the offensive player uses his off arm to initiate contact. Here, the dribbler, Trae Young, uses his off arm to hook the left arm of the defender, LaMelo Ball. This illegal contact occurs in the process of Young attempting a shot, and it impedes Ball's ability to continue defending the play. This type of contact is illegal and should be ruled an offensive foul on Young. The final play in this section will show an example of contact initiated by an offensive player's off arm that is only marginal and thus would not be ruled a foul. The offensive player, James Harden, uses his off arm to initiate contact with the arm of the defender, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as Harden is in the process of attempting his shot. But since the contact was just marginal, this should be ruled a no call. Going forward, we will continue to review these types of plays, and we will work with our officiating staff to identify and properly adjudicate all non-basketball moves used by offensive players.
And of course, they showed Emmanuel Quickley at the end, right? They showed Quickley at the end. No, that was Quickley. Peyton never did that. What are you talking about? Peyton?
Was that Quickley before Peyton? I mean, was Peyton before Quickley, or was that Quickley both?
That was Lou Williams and then Quickley. Or something like that.
I didn't see Alfred Payton.
I didn't see Payton at all. I think, no, it was Lou Williams. Then there was the Celtics. The Knicks playing defense against the Celtics, and then you had
the last one was Quickley. Yeah.
And then you had Quickley, but and when you look at that particular video with Quickley, he went up and he hooked the defensive player's arm, and then went up with his floater. And a lot of NBA players do the same thing. Now, I think NBA players are good at adapting, and they'll figure it out without a problem. But you're going to see this call a lot, especially early in the season. You're going to see it a lot. More reason why, in my opinion, Emmanuel Quickley's got to perfect that pull-up game. Not that he can't do the floater. Do the floater, but don't look for that call. And then perfect that pull-up game because he's going with so much speed. And boom, 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 2 dribble pull-up. You got the defense going one way. Now they try to pull back to defend it, and they foul you. That easy. But Josh, how do you think it impacts Emmanuel Quickley's game, if at all?
Well, it absolutely impacts Emmanuel Quickley's game. And, just to make a general, observation about these points of education, as the NBA wants to call it. I think the NBA the points of education, that's what they're officially calling it. The NBA created this problem. Anytime you try to reform the rules, for whatever the case may be, ultimately you're going to have to keep reforming the rules that, affect, cause the unintended consequences of the rules that you put out there in the first place. So the NBA absolutely caused this problem. And like I said, it's going to affect Emmanuel Quickley's game a lot. Like you said, that pull-up jumper is very, very important for him. He can't be able to try to get any of those cheap fouls anymore that we see Trae Young and James Harden get. So this is about Emmanuel Quickley. For us, this is about Emmanuel Quickley definitely refining his game a little bit more and becoming a little bit more fluid with his offensive game.
Yeah, I disagree because one thing about Quickley that I'll give him props for being a rookie, he was very savvy at getting fouls in the early on. He kind of picked up the James Harden, shoot and then get fouled kind of thing. He would kind of get into a shooting motion, get fouled. I give him props on that early in the season. You notice that in the second part of the season, and then even going into the playoffs and the summer league, he changed that because he wasn't doing it as much. And I think that's because they were trying to do that point of emphasis on this call, and he adjusted to it. I don't think you didn't see him do that many pump fakes anymore that you saw probably earlier in the season with him. So, I agree with Sim. He's got to develop a mid-range jumper. That's definitely going to help, perfect that floater. But he learned that he wasn't getting those calls later on in the season. You have to watch, when you watch the whole season, earlier when he was playing, he was getting those fouls. He was getting those calls. Yeah. That's why he's going to the free throw line.
Yeah, he was good.
But as the season went on, he didn't get those calls anymore. They weren't calling him. There were times in games where he would try to do it, and he'd look at the ref like, aren't you going to call it? And the ref's like, no. So they were already doing this at the end of the season to the playoffs to the summer league. Because even in the summer league, he was trying to do that too, and they weren't calling it. And he would kind of have that dumbfounded look like, why aren't you calling the call? And he would adjust. So I think he's already seen that and knows that that's going to be a point of emphasis this year. They're going to focus on that.
Well, I think as a rookie, I think he decided to depend on it a little bit more.
Sure.
And I think that's the reason why he wasn't dependent on it. And, it did affect his game. That's why he was able to change and was able to adjust. So it did affect his game, and it will affect him during this season. Let's see if he can continue on that offensive maturity to get up some more cleaner shots and get to the foul line without depending on this rule. So it will affect. I
agree. And you know what? I'm totally for this rule. I am so tired as a defensive-minded person. I am so tired of all these offensive players doing whatever the hell they want to do when they shoot and get in the call. Like, if it's an offensive foul, it's an offensive foul, but make it egregious. Like, just because the defender tries to block the shot and makes a little contact with the shooter's hand, that's a foul. Like, what are you supposed to do as a defender? Keep your arms behind your back the whole time? I feel like that's where the NBA is going. And now they're giving a little break saying, okay, now we're not going to allow this to happen. So let's see what happens. The guys like Harden that perfect this, Kevin Durant, they're really going to hurt from this because they get a lot of their shots from these calls. A lot of their points from these calls.
Not Kevin Durant. James Harden, not Kevin Durant.
Yeah, not Kevin Durant.
Not Kevin Durant.
Not Kevin.
Well,
But guys are going to find other ways to manipulate the rules. That's just the way it goes. They're going to find other ways to force the referee to call a foul, blow the whistle, or whatever it is. They've been doing it for years, and the NBA will continue to make rule changes. Like Josh said, though, they created this. They said no more hand checking. They put in, now you can finish your step and then take 2 steps, right? So you have your gather step that you can use. And players said, okay, I have this gather. Now what can I do off of my gather? I almost have a 3rd step. Because it used to be once you finish one, you pick the ball up, you finish the step, you only got 1 more. Now you pick the ball up, you finish that step, and you got 2 more. Right? So players started to figure out different ways that they can. That's why you see all the side steps and all these different ways that they can utilize the gather. Right? So the rules historically have been geared towards the offense. One, because that's what sells tickets.
Exactly.
You know, people want to see these crazy moves, and it's fun. Defense don't sell tickets.
But it wins you championships.
So they geared their rules towards allowing the offense to be a little bit more free. But then it starts to get out of hand with these type of things, and you got to try to pull it back somehow in some way, you know, and players adjust, you know, no matter what happens. The players are going to adjust. This is Emmanuel Quickley talking about a little bit about the rule change and adjusting to the rules.
Studying it, asking questions, learning new ways to draw fouls, and just being a student of the game. You know, the game changes from year to year. From 2000 is not the same as 2010, and 2010 is not the same as 2020. So the game keeps changing. You want to be able to keep adjusting, to be versatile enough to do multiple things, to be the best player that you can be. So, you know, adjusting to the game, watching film, and just studying different players, different things like that, and just learning. Always want to be able to learn.
And you heard what he said, finding new ways to draw fouls.
To draw fouls. Yeah.
New ways to draw fouls. And that's exactly the mindset of every single player in the NBA that utilizes these rules to their benefit. Finding a new way to draw fouls.
It's called reform, Sam. It's called reform.
Hey, Sam, just to clarify, they're going to get rid of the chicken wing. Is that what they're calling? That's what I call it. I call it the chicken wing, where you throw your little arm out when you're trying to drive to kind of create separation.
That's always been a call. What they were talking about was the offensive player hooking the defensive players.
The hooking one too, but they talked about the wing, like, you know, putting your arm out to kind of create separation. Because if you watch the finals, you saw that a lot between Booker and Giannis. It frustrated the hell out of me because both of them were just always getting away with those, always getting calls every time on those drives. I was just curious if that was the chicken wing that they're talking about.
I mean, they're talking about all non-basketball contact that the offensive player creates. You know, whether it's a little bit of a bump, you know, it's a, you know, chicken wing that you like to call it, you know, that you're grabbing the offensive player's arm or hooking their arm, however it is. They're trying to cut down on this non-basketball contact that is benefiting the offensive players. And
do you think scoring will go down because of that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't think so. I mean, and listen, I teach my players certain moves. You know, make sure that when you plant your foot, you dribble at the same time, because now you still got 2 steps afterwards. You plant, make sure the ball and your foot hit the floor at the same time. You got 2 moves. I teach a move for a player to go to the basket with the left or right hand, depending on what it is. Go, use your shoulder to bump your defender, and then fade back off the bump, or bump the defender and take a side step or a step back. Right? You bump the defender, get that person off kilter a little bit. You might even get the foul. So all of these things are taught from a young age, and it's just second nature for these guys to do these things. And as they make rule changes, they're going to get in the gym. They're going to figure out other ways. They're going to get with their group of guys and say, yo, if I do this, is this a foul? Is that a foul? You know, they got referees in practices, you know, and they'll say, yep, that's a foul. Nope, that's not a foul. And then they're going to use it in the game. That's gamesmanship. That's what it is. Gamesmanship. But anyway.
Yeah, I think the preseason you'll see.
Yeah. You'll see a lot of it called in the preseason. Pretty sure you'll see a lot of it. And players are going to test it too. So let me see if they're serious about this. Let me see. Because they might not be serious, you know. See what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, very good show. Very good show. Despite Nate's, you know, sound issues, very good show. I'm going to cut that whole section out. So whatever you said there, I hope it wasn't anything super enlightening, because I'm cutting it out.
It was enlightening, but okay.
But anyway,
I really want to get on that defensive chant on that one. But yeah.
But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading out of here for the day. As a matter of fact, I got to get the basketball practice at 7:30. You know, so I'll have an hour to take me a little nap and relax before I go to basketball practice. But I do want to remind you, look out for the notification next week. We are planning to have Miles McBride's high school coach on the show. Right? It's all tentative, right? Because he's a busy guy. He's got a lot of things that he's doing, so it's all tentative. But the plan is for him to be here next Tuesday about 4:30. We're going to talk about McBride, his character, his personality, why he thinks McBride is going to be successful in the NBA, how he may be able to impact the New York Knicks this season. He said he's got a lot of stories to tell us about McBride, fun stories, good stories. So I'm looking forward to that interview. I think it's going to be really, really fun. So make sure that you join us then, ladies and gentlemen. In the meantime, we'll continue to keep you updated on what's going on with the New York Knicks and training camp tomorrow, throughout the weekend. And then, of course, October the 5th, the first preseason game. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. Josh, any last words before we get out of here?
Salute to the MBK fam. Make sure you stay tuned, guys. It's just beginning. We got a lot of good stuff coming for you guys. So definitely look out for that.
Yeah, no doubt. And Nate?
Yeah, it's just around the corner. Like Josh was saying earlier, with all these principles that they're talking about doing the offense, I got to see it. You can talk all you want to talk, but I got to see it. If I see it, then I know it's going to be true. If I don't see it, then it's not going to be true. It's like when Mitch saying, I'm going to shoot a jumper and didn't shoot a jumper all year. So I got to see it to believe it. So
okay,
we'll go from there.
There are principles that the team and the coaches are trying to say, hey, this is what we do by second nature. This is like breathing for us.
But on the offensive side is what I meant. I meant more
on the offensive and defensive side, on both sides. They want those principles to be like breathing. Just imagine walking down the street and you have a hard time breathing, or you have to think about breathing, right? It'd be a struggle to walk down the street. So
but I'm talking going forward.
I'm not talking about but they want these principles. I'm not talking about last year. I'm talking about right now. They want these principles to be like breathing, second nature. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So they're pounding down on these principles in practice. You can believe that. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me today. We had one phone caller trying to call in right here at the end, and I'm not going to be able to get to that person because I'm heading out. But ladies and gentlemen, when you see the number up on the screen, that means it's open for you to call in. If it's not up on the screen, then it's probably not open for you to call in. But you got to get those calls in, a little bit early when it's up there on the screen, because sometimes we got a lot of calls, or sometimes people call in late. Sorry to the caller. I appreciate you. I'm out of here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and ring that notification bell so you'll be notified whenever we go live, drop a video, or post in the community section, or whatever it is, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you do that and click that all button so that you're notified for all videos that drop. We're out of here. Peace. Spread love, ladies and gentlemen.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sob like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Nick.